There are 10 critical things that a lot of people don't tell new writers, and you absolutely have to have these if you want your book to be successful. Think of them as like critical ingredients in your recipe for your book. There is a lot to worry about when you're first writing a book because there's so many things to learn and it can be super frustrating. If you take some time to at least think about this before you start writing, you will save yourself a lot of headaches. Number one, does this book deserve the time? Not just your time. Does it deserve the reader's time? Now, if you're a writer, chances are, like me, you were born with natural insecurity and you're like, no, it's a crappy book. Nobody's going to want to read it. But step back for a second and think about the story that you are telling. Is this an important message that people want to hear? Is this going to be something that will entertain them and take their mind off their problems? Is this something that will give them a puzzle to figure out? Is it a story that is worth the value of the time that the reader is going to give you, which is the one commodity that we cannot get back and we can't buy more of? So if somebody gives me 4 hours or 10 hours or whatever to read one of my books, I want to make sure that I'm delivering something of value. So ask yourself, is this a story that is powerful enough to be worthy of the reader's time? Number two, is this concept sellable? Like, can I talk about it in a sentence or less? When I first started out writing, I just kind of wrote stories. I didn't think about how I was going to sell it or market it, but here's the truth. If you want people to actually read it, you have to be able to reach them through some kind of marketing, even if it is just your back cover blurb, because it is a product to the reader, a product they're going to invest their money in. And so you need to make it sellable. What I find a lot of new writers do is that they ramble on and on and on about their story, and I'm getting kind of lost and I'm thinking, okay, what is the point of this story here? Because in order to get the reader's attention, you need to be able to really encapsulate your story quickly in a way that they understand and in a way that grabs them. You're like, okay, great advice. How on earth do I do that? Think about what's already out there and think about how you can twist it. That's called a high concept. Let's say you're doing a young female detective series set in Alaska. That's Nancy Drew in the Arctic Circle. So that's taking a familiar concept that everybody gets and then twisting it with your own individual turn on that particular type of story. That's a sellable concept because it's quick and short. So if you can't summarize your book in a quick, short line, definitely work on trying to do that. Number three, do you have a plan for the long haul? Because a lot of things can happen. You could write this book and it could go nowhere. You could write this book and have it take off, and all of a sudden you're producing lots and lots more books. None of us are fortune tellers. None of us have a crystal ball that tells us what's going to happen. So you really need to have a plan for the long haul. I have always planned my career in 5-year, 1 year, and quarterly increments. I'm the kind of person that needs to have a GPS in order to get somewhere. Have I had to pivot that plan? Yes, because whatever I was writing wasn't popular or I lost interest in it, I wanted to write something else. I wanted a plan if things went south and if things went north. So have some kind of a plan for whatever the next year to 5 years looks like for you as a writer. And along with that, you need a schedule and a goal. You need to set that goal up in front of you. Put it on a whiteboard, write it on a piece of paper and tape it on the wall in front of where you write. Write that goal down and make it something that you can work toward every single day. Because there are going to be days when the writing is hard and there are going to be days when the writing is easy. And if you have that goal, which is what I have on my whiteboard all the time, right in front of you, then you can look at it when things are hard and say, okay, I'm moving towards this. When I first started writing, I had a full-time job and I had 2 little kids at home. Thank God for coffee pots and coffee. I got up really early and I wrote, I printed out my pages, I took them with me for the day. I would edit on them and then go back to work after the kids went to bed, because during the day I had the kids and the full-time job, so I couldn't write. I wrote 5 days a week, and it didn't matter if I wrote 100 words or 100 pages. I wrote something. If I could at least get a paragraph out, I was very happy. I still do that to this day. 5 days a week, I work on the book in some way, shape, or form. So the next 4 things you need are things you probably already know you need if you subscribe to this channel. If you don't, and you want to know more about any one of these next 4 things, watch the Fiction Foundations playlist, because I delve into all of them in detail in a lot of different videos. You need relatable characters. That means characters that people can connect with. They do not have to look just like you or sound just like you or live in the same world as you. What we find relatable is what's in here. The fears, the anxieties, the doubts. There was just a discussion in the comments on the channel a couple of weeks ago about writing characters that were a different race or a different time period or a different background than the author. And I totally encourage you to do that. That's part of the joy of being a writer, is being able to write about things that aren't you. If you're going to write about a different race, a different type of character, or a different time period, and take the time to do your research. And you have to be culturally sensitive. Don't just read one source. Really delve deep into your research for whatever type of character you want to write about, because you want to know them well. But what it all comes back to is them being relatable, is them having fears and doubts and insecurities that we can all connect with. Because when we see somebody that is like us inside, it doesn't matter if the character is a dragon or a king from the 15th century, we can relate to fear of not being enough, or that sense that you're being abandoned, or that struggle with the responsibility that has been laid on your shoulders. For instance, my husband and I have been watching House of the Dragon. I may not be able to understand what it's like to be a king in a fantasy world, but I can totally understand the mantle of responsibility that is put on somebody in leadership. That's what I'm meaning about the relatability. It's something that we can all connect with, those core emotions. You also need a believable plot where things get worse throughout the book. One of the things that I learned early on that really helped me a lot with writing a stronger book was that the best ending for a scene is failure. It doesn't have to be the world comes to an end failure. It can just be the character not getting the answers they want or not finding what they want. It can be any kind of failure that gives the character another roadblock, because that brings me to the next thing you need. Lots and lots and lots of conflict. If you make it too easy for your character, the reader's just not going to buy it, and they're going to get bored. I was reading a book the other day that was super strong through the first 2/3 of the book, and then all of a sudden it became very predictable, and it was kind of like the author just like wanted to rush to get to the end. There wasn't any more conflict. It was just a bunch of scenes of happy endings with everybody. I really wanted to see the characters continue to overcome conflicts and challenges until the very last scene. That is what we read for, to get that catharsis of seeing somebody else go through an incredibly trying time and succeed at the end. Your characters do not have to, as I've said 1,000 times, battle aliens that are taking over the world. It can sometimes be just an inner battle against themselves. We've been watching Rings of Power on Prime, and we're watching this thinking, don't do it. Don't make those rings with that guy, because that's going to end badly. That's a conflict right there. The elf that is in charge of making the rings also has a lot of conflict inside himself. Am I saving Middle Earth, or am I doing the wrong thing by lying to my king? It's a lot of layers of conflict just in that one element and that one storyline in the Rings of Power. Look at what you are watching or reading and really nail down and list what are all the conflicts that are in this character's way. It's more than just the bad guy. It's their internal turmoil. It's the relationships around them. It's the secrets that they hold. There is a lot going on. And then you need a powerful setting to go along with it. You want a place that really enhances the emotion and makes things even more difficult, hopefully, for the character. With The Princess Bride, the setting became a big part of the challenges facing Buttercup and Wesley. I remember reading that book because I read it before I saw the movie. I was like glued to that book until the end because I really wanted to see it work out, because I saw how much Buttercup had grown and changed, and I felt for Wesley and how much he loved her and how much he was willing to sacrifice. That's the kind of emotional connection you want to draw with your characters, with your plot, with your setting, with every part of your book that you are putting together. Next, you need a plan to revise it, because I don't care who you are, nobody writes a perfect first draft. The first draft is just to get it on the page, to start giving yourself something to work with. Because if you don't write it, it doesn't exist. It's like putting that lump of clay in front of you, and then you're going to start molding and tweaking and cutting here and adding there, and you're going to start perfecting it. It's never going to be perfect, but it's going to be better if you have a revision plan. I did a 3-part video series on how to revise a book and what I look for as I go through my books. But one of the things that I really want you to look for is delivering more emotional impact with the scenes that are important. I want you to try harder on those words. And if you're struggling, you can't figure out how to get that emotion on the page, pick up 4 or 5 books in your genre that deal with a similar situation. Don't copy them, but look at how the author used the different elements in their scene in order to make the emotion stronger. That's why I take a lot of the books that I read and I analyze them for great lines, for conflict, for really good plot twists. When you do that, you have a visual roadmap for the book. And that gives you a place to start when you're doing your own revisions, because you look at the visual roadmap of the books that are doing well and are successful and are really powerful, and then you apply that roadmap to your own book, and I guarantee you will see what you are lacking and where you need to really beef it up. Do not feel discouraged if you have a lot to revise, because frankly, Everybody has a lot to revise. Everybody can be a better writer today than they were yesterday. That is part of the process and actually part of the fun. Learning how you can really take this scene and make it better than it was before. It's like a challenge. There are two other critical things that people don't really talk about. One of them is something your characters could use and you could definitely use, and that is a mentor. Characters use mentors, like Yoda is a mentor for Luke Skywalker. The mentors give them feedback at a critical juncture to send them down the right path or to encourage them to do something that they need to do. Mentors are a great plot device. I almost always have somebody that's a little bit of a mentor in every single book I create. When I first started out, I definitely needed a mentor who would hold my hand when it was getting tough and tell me that I could do it when I really wanted to quit. I did not have that support system within my own family at home. And so I went and sought other writers who could kind of do that for me. I've tried to do that with the free community that I created because I think that all writers need that. Now, can I mentor every writer one-on-one? No. But I can definitely give you advice when you come to a live stream or if you write something in the comments, and hopefully give you that little boost of encouragement that you need or that little nudge in the right direction. You're going to get rejections. You're going to get one-star reviews. It is part of the job. Remember, I had 10 books rejected in 8 years before I sold my first one. And having that mentor really helped me brainstorm a better idea or kind of pick myself back up after the disappointment. Your character needs that and you need that. And the final thing you need, and something that I've actually never heard anybody talk about before, is intention. You need an intention for your career. You need an intention for the book that you are writing right now. And you need an intention for every single word you put on the page. Back to the first thing I said, you don't want to waste the reader's time. All of the other things that I listed come right back down to being intentional and creating characters that deserve this story, that can achieve in this story, that can grow and change. It comes down to trying a little bit harder with the intentional words that you create so that every page keeps that reader up until the middle of the night. Don't write something just because it's trending. That to me is a recipe for disaster, because if it's successful, you got to write 100 more. So write something that you love, because that love will show on the page. Write something that interests you and figure out what your intentions are for writing this book. Are you here to entertain people? Are you here to spread a message? Are you here to show them that life can be better if they do this or that? Whatever the theme is of your book, think about your intention before you sit down to write. You probably already know that you're going to have to persevere, that it's going to be a roller coaster, that it's not going to all be rainbows and unicorns. And that's okay, because that's what makes it so worth it in the end. So keep writing and study videos like this one that really delve deeper into what makes for a compelling book so that you can start applying those lessons to your own. And be intentional about the words you put on the page today and the ones you use tomorrow.